There guys, and welcome to the Regimental rundown video for Charlie Foxtrot, my only war 40k TTRPG campaign that's going to be going on. So first off, there's going to be one more video after this probably. I may do like an announcement video to let you know the kind of dates and times of the regular show. But the other video I'm definitely going to be doing, hopefully in a few days from now, will be the how to join, the details of joining, you know, if you're a viewer and you want to play, if you're a Twitch role player, cast member type person, if you want to play. So I'm going to be doing that video in a couple of days. But for this video, we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth about the regiments. They're all custom created regiments, and I just wanted to do like a little along to be like a companion to the setting and lore of the campaign. I wanted to get you guys a little bit more information about the regiments past the initial kind of image card that you'll see on the as we talk about the regiments. So, first up, we're going to be talking about the At-Last Sisyphean regiment. They are from the fortress world of At-Last. You should see their image up as well with like a little rundown of the details of them. But going into more detail on them, they are siege infantry, so they tend to be either defensive, or if there's like a big fortress or anything like that, they tend to be sent in to deal with that. But mostly they fortify and they defend. So most likely in the beginning of the campaign especially, they'll be the ones sent in to fortify positions that need to be held. And if there are defensive operations, if there's a counterattack, for example, if there's like a big push on their position, that's probably where you're going to find the At-Last Sisyphean regiment. So they're from the fortress world of At-Last. The planet itself is under constant invasion from orcs. They're the only regiment who's actually had any experience fighting orcs, and that is because orcs every couple of years invade their planet in the same spot. And they do this because they know that they can get a good fight there. This is why the At-Last kind of homeworld has no space defenses, basically. Is because the area is home to multiple worlds of Imperial origin. But the orcs, because they're just looking for a fight at the moment, they keep going to At-Last because they know they can get a good fight there. Like, they land down, they pour out, and the At-Last regiments are ready for them with defenses and guns and all that kind of stuff, and it's a big brawl. So they're fairly battle hardened, and they reason that if they were to put up any kind of space defenses to shoot the orcs down before they got to the planet, well, then the orcs would just be like, well, there's no good fight here, let's go somewhere else, and they'd invade other planets in the area. So that's the reason why they have things the way they have it. The whole planet is basically a long system of trenches and underground bunkers and fortresses and all this kind of thing. So they're very used to trench warfare, they're very used to being besieged and fighting. You know, sometimes the orcs come down and they beat them quite quickly. Sometimes the orcs get into the trenches and it's like a longer fight, and then more orcs come a couple of years later and kind of reinforce and all this kind of thing. So sometimes the war will go on for half a year, a month. Sometimes it's like 20, 50 years just fighting orcs as more come in. The actual planet itself is higher in gravity than usual, which means that the At-Last population, the people there, because of course, you know, there are regular people living their lives, underground bunkers, etc. They're a little bit shorter than usual. They're not dwarves, but you can see that if you look at the armor and everything, you can kind of see the dwarfish influence there a little bit. They're not tiny. They're not like, ratling sized, but they are a bit shorter in general. As you can see, their uniform, they have the look of like a slightly more heavily armored unit, and their commander is called Commander Aegis. Now, Commander Aegis is a tool for, if she had been raised in like a normal gravity planet, she'd probably be, even more massive. But no, she's like 6'1", it's like 6'1", and she's been the commander of the kind of off-world Sisyphean regiment for quite a while. Mostly they get called in to deal with orcs, so they've got good experience fighting orcs. She's been leading them for quite a while, and she's been the victor of many battles, so she's quite trusted by her men, and she's the type of commander who leads from the front. So if there's an assault on her defenses, she's going to be there. She's got a big eviscerator, two-handed chainsword. It's got the word immovable engraved upon it, and she's got a grenade launcher at her side. So that gives you an idea of her. You'll find out more about all the commanders as we go through the campaign. But yeah, that's the Sisyphean regiment. They're going to be used, as I said, majorly for siege stuff. They'll probably be, as the campaign goes on, they'll probably be engaged for other things as well. But for now, they're going to be they're going to be used majorly for defense and assaulting like siege positions. So the next regiment after that is the Naboo Banshee regiment. As I said, all of these regiments were created by me while I was live streaming, so some of these ideas come from chat as well. The Sisyphean part of the At Last Sisyphean regiment came from Gaming FTL, Josh, if you guys know him. I'm in his Vampire the Masquerade campaign. Anyway, someone in chat said, "Hey, how about Naboo as a planet name for this first regiment we were making?" And I was like, "How about Naboom?" And everyone was like, yeah, Naboom. So the Death World of Naboom is where the Naboo Banshee regiment come from. They are grenadiers, sappers. They're kind of a mix of assault infantry going along with like urban combat to a certain extent. They deal with traps and explosives and all this kind of stuff. And this is because the Death World of Naboo is a very interesting death world where everything explodes. So, to begin with, it has been a battleground on numerous occasions. Eventually, the Imperium just decided to colonize it and set up there'd been so many battles on there, there was a lot of things to kind of sift through and all this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, for the colonists who landed there, the entire planet is covered in large amounts of unexploded ordnance. Shells and mines and grenades and anything explosive. Some of it's hidden, some of it's just lying out there, randomly explodes. So the whole planet, aside from, just the flora and fauna and everything that lives on it, the whole planet explodes. Now, what this in addition to this, all of the plant life and all of the animal life also explode to some degree. You have flowers that when they seed and they send out their spores, they just explode. That's how they that's how they spread, is they get to the point where they've pollinated or whatever, and they explode, and then all their seeds go off. You have multiple animals whose defensive mechanism is just to explode. And then there is the apex predator and the symbol of the Naboo Banshee Regiment, and also the name of the Banshee Regiment, which is the Banshee. The Banshee is a multiple-armed ape-like creature that became the planet's apex predator, not through size or ferocity, but through intelligence. It utilizes the exploding properties of the flora, their favorite. This is a chat-created thing. Their favorite weapon to use is the explosive mango that grows on the planet, also known as the bango. And yeah, they have a random number of arms, so anywhere from like 2 to 6, I think. Their arms and they've got high regenerative quality, so like their arms regrow and stuff like that. It basically, another part of the reason is their regenerative aptitude means that even if they blow off a limb or whatever, they can, grow things back. And yeah, the people on Naboo, the regiment itself, are very twitchy, very paranoid. Their entire planet explodes all the time, just random explosions. Sleeping is difficult because there's always, there's never any quiet, basically. And yeah, aside from that, they are very difficult to invade, because the last invading army that landed on Naboo, they never actually saw them. There was just loud explosions and then nothing. Either they left, or they went exploring, they had a look, and yeah, they never returned. So it's an easy place to defend. The other thing is, on other planets they actually feel fairly uncomfortable because it always feels too quiet. Even in the middle of a raging battle, it's not quite the same to them. Like, they're used to the explosions and that at this point. Their commander is Commander Harkon Iron Broadside, who has a bionic left leg and right arm. The whole side of his face is kind of metal bionic, a little bit scarred, obviously. He's very quiet, very quick, and it's said that he can run across a minefield, and even if he steps on a mine, they won't go off. So he's very experienced with explosives and traps and this kind of thing, much like the rest of his regiment. Their tactics will mostly probably be assault, and anywhere that's heavily mined or heavily trapped, they'll probably be sent into. There's a certain extent to them of skirmishing, but not really. They probably have, a decent number of tanks and that kind of thing as well. So, but yeah, the majority of what they'll be doing is they'll be dealing with explosives and kind of assaulting positions with grenade launchers, grenades, all that kind of thing. The next one up is the Imperial Line Regiment, number 2815186. They are from the Hive world of Mundus 7, and they are standard line infantry. There is nothing exciting about them. Yeah, so I really like these guys. I love the art behind these guys as well, because it has this very kind of imposing, ominous feel to it, while at the same time being they're just standard infantry with the uniform and everything. They look spick and span, and the planet of Mundus 7 was one of the last planets to be colonized in their sector of the galaxy, not because it wasn't worth colonizing, but because no one noticed it. After finally being colonized, people explored the planet thoroughly and could find nothing dangerous or interesting aside from the standard trees and mountains and lakes. It's not even beautiful or scenic, it's just there. The people of Mundus are very unremarkable. There's nothing about them that stands out. They don't, they're not massively tall, they never mutate, they're just regular people living a regular life on a regular planet. Interestingly enough, if anyone paid enough attention to the planet, and they looked back into the history of the planet, it's never been invaded. There's been no rebellions, no cults, no outbreaks of chaos, there's never even been a report by anyone in the Imperium where it's like, there could be trouble on Mundus 7, which, in itself, if anyone was to notice that, they'd think that's a little weird. Not even natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, meteors, nothing interesting. They just have a healthy population with a big regiment because everyone lives a healthy, normal life. They train, and yeah, that's the thing about Mundus, and the Imperial Line Regiment, is they're just normal. So because they're a line regiment, they'll probably be engaged in pretty much straight up fights. They won't have any speciality targets, really, any speciality assignments. But so they'll be utilized a fair amount. They have a very large regiment comparative to the others. The others are a bit more specialized. And their tactics are, very much just standard to the Imperial orders. Move forward, engage, go from cover to cover, all that kind of thing. Their commander is Commander Guy Smith. He is a serious, if unremarkable, man. Commander Smith has been mistaken for a regular trooper on many occasions, even by his own men, and there are reports of him wandering into the enemy camp, talking with them, planting explosives, walking out and just blowing them up without being noticed. He is difficult for people to remember or describe, and very often the fellow officers and commanders of the other regiments don't notice him or even remember working with him, and when people ask what he looks like, they can't really describe him except for average. He's a very effective soldier and commander, never lost an engagement so far. Mostly the Imperial Regiment has been dealing with just rebellions and insurrections and things like that, nothing too serious. And yeah, the thing about him is like he's not like a mysterious figure in the Imperial Guard regiments. People don't whisper about him and be like, did you hear about that, Commander Smith? He's just overlooked. Like, he does a really good job and no one notices because no one notices him. So yeah, that's the Imperial Line Regiment, number 28151186. I really like them personally. I think they're really interesting. I understand people who are like, they're not that interesting, but we've got some thoughts and ideas on it. So yeah, the next one is, as far as I know so far, probably one of the more popular regiments. From what people who've already seen them and seen the art and everything. The Imperial Pegasi Guard, from the penal colony of New Ozland. Yes, New Ozland, really. So they're a skirmish/guerrilla regiment. Their planet, the planet of New Ozland, is basically a scrapyard. There are wrecks from old wars and battles that get dumped on the planet. There are ships that no longer work, that have been, destroyed past past anything usable. They get dragged here, they get dumped here. The whole planet is just a big wreck of twisted metal and not really technology exactly, but there's technology in there. And the job of the penal colony on New Ozland is to go through all this wreck and to scrap it and salvage it and send everything useful back out into the Imperium to reuse. There's a couple of kind of jackal hyena type species that wander the planet, but there's nothing really dangerous. There's no, the only danger is like tetanus on this planet. However, it does mean that, you know, they're pretty decent at salvaging as a people. They are a penal colony, so a lot of prisoners get sent there, and then, you know, they have families. They have some form of governance. It's not much, but they have a little bit. And obviously the population has learned the art of skiving, stealing, repurposing, and just general skullduggery. Their regiment was actually raised partly on accident. The intention was to raise a upstanding Imperial world, you know, kind of like a shrine world or something like that, where they worship the Emperor, they're all law-abiding citizens, etc., etc. Unfortunately, there was a clerical error, and the Imperial Guard regiment that was supposed to get raised was raised on New Ozland instead, the penal colony. So they don't have the traditional penal colony collars. No one's noticed yet that the Imperial Pegasi Guard are in fact not from, you know, they're not upstanding citizens, they're in fact prisoners on a prison world. So, yeah, they were raised by accident, and they basically use their skills as guardsmen now. So, very often the black markets are run by them. The illegal goods, the amount of things that the average guardsman can find that they wouldn't usually find is in there. Because these guys, you know, I mean, the Imperial Pegasi Guard was supposed to have, you know, gleaming uniforms and amazing weapons, and, you know, they were very well equipped. Unfortunately, the Imperial Pegasi Guard, the prisoners, they sold all that. So, yeah, they don't really have any of that gear left, but they do have a decent amount of supplies that they felt they needed. They're you know, reasonably well off as a whole, as a group. Their commander is there he is, Commander Hugo Dundee. Well-meaning and enthusiastic, he was from a rich, prosperous Imperial world. After being assigned to the Pegasi Guard, he was told he would be commanding a regiment of troops similar to himself. Thus far, he has not realised that his regiment is drawing troops from a penal world because of a clerical error. While he has noticed that the troops are a bit rough, he believes they are just diamonds waiting for a proper polishing. He leads from the front, but is mostly ignored by his troops, and his attempts to lead by example and be a shining hero to his men is mostly met with indifference. The troops accept him as their commander because if they got rid of him, they might end up with someone competent. For the 6 months since the regiment has been founded, he's been in command, and he is the only one to wear the assigned uniform, which is primarily white with gold trimming and tassels. He has a power sword and a las pistol. So yeah, that's Commander Hugo Dundee. I love this character. He's very similar to if you've ever seen Blackadder, he's a bit similar to the Hugh Laurie character in Blackadder. And yeah, their tactics are things like skirmishing, lightning strikes, hit and run, night raids, ambushes. As bad as they are in the sense of discipline and things like that, they are still a useful regiment to have because they don't necessarily stick to the rules and they tend to think of more underhanded tactics and this kind of thing. Quite often, Commander Dundee will send them out and be like, you chaps there, go and get a platoon or whatever, and go and engage those orcs. His idea is like they kind of have a pitched battle and that kind of thing. What will actually happen is the regiment will set up, punji sticks and tripwires and this kind of thing, and then hit the orcs from the side or hit the enemy from the side and like drag them into an ambush, and then there's traps everywhere when they try and retreat and all this kind of thing. So yeah, they're very effective when they do what they want. So that's the Pegasi Guard. As I said, they're quite popular, and I think they're a really fun idea. And then finally, we have the Breath of the Emperor. This is probably the one regiment that I made myself. All of the other regiments had a lot of input from chat. This is one where I let my own imagination kind of run off with me. So they are from the drug world, Raver 8. They are a close assault regiment, which basically means that it's very rare. Sometimes you have an Imperial Guard regiment that likes hand-to-hand combat. And the Breath of the Emperor are one of these regiments. Their planet has an abundance of natural flora that is used in narcotics, either medicinal or recreational. The planet was gifted to the ecclesiarchy, who set colonists on there from multiple shrine worlds. The planet is covered in a thin film of hallucinogenic and other gaseous drugs which seep into the skin, the body, and the soul. What this basically means is there's like the air on Raver 8, where the Breath of the Emperor regiment comes from, it's just infused with drugs. And it's kind of a mix of cocktails of different drugs. Because they produce drugs there, they farm drugs there. The world itself is kind of a swampy, wet world, a mix of like jungle, swamp, and just water everywhere. And the people of Raver 8 are addicts. They're addicted to the air and the cocktail of drugs that's in the air on the planet. Now, they need to keep the planet populated, so they don't take people off, because the amount of worthwhile resources on the planet is quite high in terms of medicinal drugs and not a lot of these a lot of the drugs and the plants that they harvest have to be harvested here. So the problem that the world has had, that the Breath of the Emperor has had, is that leaving the planet actually kills them, because they don't have that cocktail of drugs all the time. They go into withdrawal, and because the people on that planet have lived there for a long time, they've bred, they've reproduced, and they've had kids, and those kids have gone on to have kids, and etc., etc. It's just a part of their being. It's just a part of who they are now. Which means they had to figure out a way to get people off the planet for the regiment. How they did that is that these guys, and you'll probably see it on the art, they have a canister which is called Breath of the Emperor. The liquid inside is inhaled, so it's turned into gas and then inhaled in like kind of shots that keeps them going. They do have like additional things on the canister which kind of they can infuse a bit more in the way of drugs. Like if they need like a boost or anything like that, they can have that. So also they were raised and they are part of the ecclesiarchy, which is the religious branch of the Imperium, and they feel it's their duty to serve the Emperor. They're very religiously fanatic in that respect, so they couldn't not they wanted, they have enough volunteers every year to go out and fight the holy wars for the Emperor, that they had to figure out this rebreather gas mask with the tanks and everything like that. Unfortunately, because of their dependency on drugs and and the tendency to take new drugs and experiment and everything, they do quite often have psychotic breaks and frenzies, which is why they became a close assault regiment, because very often when they were first raised, they were like a standard Imperial Guard with las guns, and they'd sit there behind cover firing, and but a lot of the time they'd have psychotic breaks, frenzy, and just charge in with no melee weapons. Eventually their commander, who we'll get to in a moment, decided, screw it, let's just give them close combat weapons and just charge the enemy. It makes so much more sense. Incidentally, their commander is called Commander Felicitas Kafelnikov. She is someone who is completely immune to all forms of toxins, poisons, and drugs. Every now and then, the planet will throw someone up who just has a complete resistance to the drugs on the planet, the effects of the drugs. What this basically means for the commander is that she manages to keep a clear head. She's very serious, she's very logical, she's very straightforward, and it means that she can command her troops in a sensible way. For example, when they were all frenzying and charging the enemy, during what was supposed to be a firefight, she decided to switch the regiment, give them close combat weapons, and use the tactics that made the most sense. One other thing about this regiment, and then we'll basically be at the end of the video, they have hallucinogenic bullets as well. They're called Heretic's Bane. They fire bullets that if they penetrate but don't kill, they can cause hallucinations within the enemy. This can be very useful, especially against other humans if they're putting down rebellions and stuff. They don't always use this bullet, so it's generally down to the commander whether they use this bullet. But when they do, it's very effective because it's produced from the same thing as the Emperor's breath, and that will mess most people up. So yeah, that is all of the regiments. That is all of the details that the kind of background stuff that I want to give you guys for Charlie Foxtrot. At the end, as the video is just about to end, at the end you'll get a link to the kind of setting and lore video that I did before. And then, as I said, in a few days, hopefully, I'll give you guys details on when the campaign's going to start, when the regular show is going to start, how you can sign up if you're interested in playing. If you're a viewer, you can. We'll go into proper details, but there are ways for you to play if you are interested. And as a kind of role play show regular or anything like that, if you're interested in bringing a group together and playing as a group, that's very possible. We'll go into all those details in a future video. But what I will say is thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. Charlie Foxtrot is coming very soon. I'm getting the last details down. I'm getting everything sorted. It's been so much work, which is why you may have seen less videos from me. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.